welcome back. My name is Kelly and this is the Global Bookworm. This is my final of 3 kind of return to booktubing book hauls. I have previously done free books haul, bargain books haul, and this is just my standard book haul of books that I paid full price for and was more than happy to do so. So let's get on with that and cue intro. So here we have them. These are my books, and that's them on the left and the right again. I'm not sure why I'm doing this. Consider it a workout, and now let's just stop. Because atop my stack, oh by the way, there's quite a lot of non-fiction in this stack. Let me know what you think about this. I'm trying to improve myself conversationally because, you know, I travel a lot. I find myself living abroad most of the time, and I kind of end up out of touch with what's going on in the world because I often don't fully engage with the politics of the country I'm in because it's not my country. And even, no, to be honest, even when I was in my country I didn't engage with the politics because it was never very inspiring, and I just couldn't rally behind anyone. Anyway, what I'm saying is, like, if a sociological conversation comes up, or an economical conversation, or a psychology conversation, I want to be better at contributing to these kind of intellectual conversations, which means I think less fiction, more non-fiction. What is your opinion of such a statement? Moving on. Atop my stack I have Seneca on the Shortness of Life. This is part of a series by Penguin Books, and the series is called Great Ideas. They're all these very small, slim editions by very famous people. Some of them, you know, like from way back when. I mean, Seneca, when was Seneca around? Like, it's like Roman times? I mean, like, we're talking about the time of Hippocrates, I think. A long time ago, but he wrote this. This was a letter to his friend, and it's just so relevant to today that it's been put into this series. In this series you also have Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, The Prince by Machiavelli, Common Sense by Thomas Paine, Charles Darwin on natural selection. It's all like people that we all know, and maybe we don't actually read because they're just taken for granted. But the fact that they're packaged so beautifully means that maybe we're all going to pull the finger out and actually read some of them. I also bought this. I was meant to read it at Halloween and I did not. It's Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. It's a pulp classics edition, so it's got these violent green edged pages and kind of a what would you call that, like a pop art comic-y kind of cover. These are great. I like these. I might get the Picture of Dorian Gray edition in this as well. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Have not read, cannot comment, but it's supposed to be good and it's not very long either. This is Zeus Grant's Stupid Wishes by Corey O'Brien. Corey O'Brien has a blog, and the blog is called Myths Retold. And basically, well, this was described to me as a man who gets drunk and then blogs ancient myths, like retold in a drunk man's voice. But to be honest, like, he has great fodder to work with. For example, Zeus once stuffed an unborn fetus inside his thigh to save its life after he exploded its mother by being too good in bed. The entire Egyptian universe was saved because Sekhmet just got too hammered to keep murdering anyone. The Hindu universe is run by a married couple who only stop murdering in order to throw sweet dance parties on the corpses of their enemies. The Norse goddess Freya once consented to a 4-dwarf gangbang in exchange for one shiny necklace. So even if he wasn't drunk during the retellings, like maybe he's completely stone cold sober. Maybe it started as that and now he's just sober. But it's gonna be awesome. And there's one here called Thor Gets Jacked. Friends don't let friends bang cows. So if you want to have a taster of this, then you should totes go to the website of Corey O'Brien, which is not on. Why is that not on here? Oh, just do a search for Corey O'Brien, Corey O''BRIEN, Myths Retold. Maybe that'll work. Don't fall. Okay. Next, F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby. Last year I hauled a beautiful hardback edition of this, but this is going to be my reading copy because that one is in England or in Spain, I don't know which, and I'm not going to be reading it for the foreseeable future. F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby. I need to read it. Stay. Next, I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. Earlier in the year I hauled The Sky Is Everywhere, which was actually a free book, and then I bought this one, and I don't mind it. And it has yellow pages. Only the first print run had the yellow pages, so I'm glad I got in there when I did. The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch. This is a fantasy novel with a guy who's kind of the main character in this, Locke. He is purported to be this world's Robin Hood. You know, he's a goodly character helping those less fortunate. He's just a thief. And he's not even a good fighter, and he swears like a sailor. He sounds quite enigmatic and cool and human, and I like the idea of a fantasy novel with lots of cussing, because if you have that in a fantasy novel, normally it's swear words that only exist within that fantasy realm. These are just F-bombs, I'm pretty sure. I don't know why I like that idea, but it's supposed to be very good on top of that. Cue some non-fiction. Farmageddon, The True Cost of Cheap Meat, which I actually got because I love the cover, and this barcode here inside the cow is actually usable. It was sold to me from this barcode instead of that one just because they could. And I love the colour green. Yellow, then green. So this cover makes me happy. I have not read it yet, but this would come up in conversation one day, and if I had read it, I would be able to say stuff about the topic. I don't know. This one I got just because I wanted it, not because I'm trying to be lofty and intellectual. It's Boris Johnson's The Churchill Factor, How One Man Made History. I don't know enough about my own country's history, partly because it's so long. It's like everything you learn is just a drop in the vast ocean. It's like, oh. But Churchill was instrumental and just cool, and I actually find this very interesting. I started reading it, and Boris Johnson, who's the Mayor of London, he was the Mayor of London, he's still the Mayor of London. He might even end up being Prime Minister one day. And he is absolutely, he's a buffoon, but he writes very well and very entertainingly, very like lively style about his hero, which is Churchill. And Churchill is just such an enigmatic and charismatic subject that honestly you could probably be a lot worse writer than Boris Johnson, and it would be an entertaining read. I cannot wait to read this. This is going to be awesome! Next, this was me trying, well, I sort of jumped on the bandwagon because this was selling a lot, and then I realised that the most recent print run didn't have the French flaps, and I wanted it with the French flaps, so I bought it. It is called Gut by Julia Enders. I think she's a German writer, And this is translated from German. I'm sorry if she's not German. And I have stolen a country's national treasure. German. Yeah, originally published in German. Yes. This is the inside story of our body's most underrated organ. And they talk about the gut being like a secondary brain. So rather than all these books teaching us positivity and denial of negativity, maybe we should just be cultivating a healthier gut, and then that would just improve our lives in general. So I'm going to read this one day. One day. And again, I gave up, this was ages ago that I mentioned it to you that I wanted to give up sugar. I did give up sugar for 2.5 months, and it didn't really change anything except possibly mood swings. I don't know, maybe, I'm imagining that. But I did that before I read any of the literature I bought to help me through it. So this is Sweet Poison, Why Sugar Makes Us Fat by David Gillespie, and I do think sugar is a good thing to give up, but it's also, I want to get to the stage where I don't have it at all during the week and then I just have it at the weekend as a treat, because food is such a big part of life, it would be sad to give up the sweetest part of it. Ha 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 ha. Next, The Happiness Trap, Stop Struggling, Start Living by Dr. Russ Harris. I got this because it was part of a 3 for 2 deal. And it's supposed to be quite good in terms of positivity books because it talks about allowing negativity rather than trying to supplant some false positivity that you're not actually feeling over it. Just like ride the feeling through and then change like the neural pathways, change the way you think about things, not the emotions you feel in response to the way you think about them. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just think this is one of the healthier emotional self-help books. I don't know, what am I talking about? Similarly, Change Your Thinking by Sarah Edelman. I don't know about you, but I get to these situations that completely run riot with my feelings. By the way, there's a children's school across the road from me, so you can hear them in the playground screaming and blah blah blah. Sorry about the noise pollution. Again, like sometimes I feel like my emotions are just completely putting me at their mercy and running riot and dragging me around, and it makes life really difficult sometimes. So I'd like to understand my psychology a bit better, see if I can gain a bit more control over that, although it could be a lost hope. So in the first, in my free books haul, in my bargain books haul, the previous video, I hauled a book called Of Beast and Beauty by Stacey J, stating for the 100th time that I love Beauty and the Beast retellings. This is kind of another one. It's an adult fiction book by Kate Forsyth, who is an Australian writer, so I'm not sure if she's that readily available abroad. But it's called The Beast's Garden, and it's about this woman called Ava who marries a young Nazi officer called Leo. And he's basically the beast in this and she's Beauty, but before you go worrying that they've made a Nazi into a sympathetic love lead, don't, because he is actually a spy. So it's like he is not part of the Nazi regime. Yeah, it's basically Beauty and the Beast with a Nazi. And who is Ava? Is she... I'm assuming Ava is German? Yeah, must be. I assume. I don't know. But it's going to be good, and I can't wait to read it. Next, Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, inserting picture here. Because I actually met them at the launch, and I also met Katrina from Little Book Owl. I actually took her picture with them. I was the photographer for the Rich and Famous for the evening. Not saying that she's rich, but you know, she's YouTube famous. And they were lovely, like Jay Kristoff does the best author pose, kind of looks like he's thinking about world domination. Amy Kaufman was just so sweet and friendly, and I've heard that this book, which is told very unusually, it's like, it looks like chat room scripts, and then there's like military dossiers and emails and memos and stuff. And it's just supposed to be incredibly good. There's a lot of buzz about this book. A girl I work with, she read the arc of this twice before it was even released. Excited. And it's much bigger than I was anticipating. This is amazing. This is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. It's a fantasy novel, and if you haven't read it, please do, because this author describes magic, like describes using magic and describes spell casting in the most wonderful way that I've ever encountered. Like her turns of phrase, she's a beautiful writer. And in fact, she's blurred here, enchanting in every sense by Robin Hobb, who is my favourite fantasy writer, possibly my favourite writer, full stop, of all time. I love this. If you cannot tell, you should read this. Not so much in the book, but on my Kindle, I tabbed so many bits of text that just struck me as how could I possibly have written it any other way? And yet I know that I wouldn't have found such a way of saying it. Like, it's absolutely as it should be, and yet no one but you could write it that way. So sold on this author. I'm rambling now because I'm just remembering how much I enjoyed this book. It was like a bit slower to get through. A lot happens in that, and you start to get a bit tired because of how much you've been through and how much there's still to read. Non-fiction, The Body Book by Cameron Diaz. I think she's coming out with another one next year, which is kind of about growing old, the body as you age, the aging body. And it's supposed to be very good, and I recently took up yoga and I'm loving it, and I don't know, I'm kind of taking to this idea of self-worship, like really nourishing your body, and this seems to be what Cameron Diaz is all about in this book, like giving your body what it needs, which is, water obviously, but also movement, just, in between commercial breaks, do some crunches, move your body craves movement. And it breaks down some of the sciences involved in your body in a very understandable way, and talks about obviously nutrition and stuff, and I just think this is going to be a good read. If it's good enough for Cameron Diaz, hey, it's good enough for me. The last thing, I jumped on the adult colouring book bandwagon, although I have since buying this now decided that I freaking well hate it, because like, we used to sell real books, and now everyone just comes in for the colouring books. Although I do think it's past its peak now and it's starting to slump down. But we have so many of them. There is a whole section that never existed before, just of adult colouring books. And we regularly will have like 2 or 3 adult colouring books in our top 10 store-wide, plus like Zoe's Sugg, which I'm not okay with. So yeah, Secret Garden by Joanna Basford. I'm only really interested in buying the Joanna Basford ones for myself because they are at least pretty. A lot of the ones coming out now, the artwork's just not really up to scratch, so I just don't see the point in paying for them. But this one was nice, and I would quite like to buy the Under the Sea one and colour that. Can you imagine like taking that to the beach somewhere? I'm just going to have to stay like this. Anyway, as I was saying about the Under the Sea one, if I could just take that to the beach and colour it there. And it is coming up for summer, although it has been raining for days in Sydney. I feel like I've been talking a mile a minute and my nose is starting to really get backed up. That's gross. I'm sorry, I'm ill, if I haven't already said that 1,000 times. So I'm going to go, that was the 3rd of 3 haul videos, but to be honest there's going to be more because there's a sale coming up, Christmas is coming up, I need to get back on to doing my wrap up and TBR videos, but I have to say I have not even been reading very much the past few months. Thank you guys. Bye bye for now.